Hello guys, welcome back to Anime Moments. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Against the Gods based on novel. So let's start explanation. Great Elder's words are incorrect. Just as Yun Waitian had stopped speaking, the Yun family elder quickly followed up and said, based on prestige, strength and contribution to our Yun clan, you are definitely the most suitable to be our next patriarch. That's right. Another elder also hastily said, in terms of rank, Great Elder is the leader of the Elder Council. In terms of strength, you're also the strongest in our family. Furthermore, ever since the patriarch became crippled all those years back, all the matters concerning the clan has been handled by Great Elder. Therefore, if we were to choose the most suitable candidate for patriarch acknowledged by everyone, it would no doubt be Great Elder. I think so as well. A few elders carried on, speaking one after another, recommending Great Elder Yun Waitian to be the next Yun patriarch. Gradually, more and more people spoke for Yun Waitian. Only a minority of the elders did not speak up and sighed in secret. Following that, all the middle-aged and young generation of the Yun family began echoing out the Great Elder's name. 100 years ago, Yun Songhai left and never returned. Yun Qinghong had to succeed as the next patriarch. At that time, in terms of prestige and influence within the family, 10 Yun Waitian could not even match up to 1 Yun Qinghong. Within the family, any command by Yun Qinghong would be fulfilled immediately and no one dared to defy him. Although the Yun family 11 strongest cornerstones disappeared overnight and their strength faltered massively, and they even carried the name of sinners, the entire family believed that with Yun Qinghong leading the family, the Yun family would definitely rise once again. Outside of the Yun family, there was no one that would dare belittle the strength of the weakened Yun family. Because at that time, there was the unrivaled talent, Yun Qinghong. However, 22 years ago, Yun Qinghong was crippled. In a world where strength meant everything, even if a person whose strength was lower than that of dirt, who could never be strong again, possessed the title of patriarch, he would not be really respected and feared by others. The reputation he had built up for himself quickly vanished within these 22 years. The high regard, respect, reverence, adoration, and fear others had toward him, turned into sighs, disregard and even insult and gloating after he was crippled. The Yun family elders, peers and junior who held him in high regard were all extremely disappointed and sighed. As the epitome of a profound cultivating family in illusory demon realm, who would actually allow a crippled person to lead them? Even among those who vowed to forever stay loyal to Yun Qinghong, had secretly went away. The others who still vowed to stay with him till death were chased away by Yun Qinghong. Because at that time, he knew the condition of his own body, and that those who stayed with him would have no future. How would he be willing to delay the prospects of those who were sincere toward him? Until the end, he kept his status as patriarch, but only his wife and son remained by his side. 20-odd years ago, who could imagine the Yun Qinghong, who was probably the brightest star within the entire illusory demon realm, would be in such a pathetic state where no one would bother to look him in the eye. Due to being crippled for 22 years until now, not one person in his own clan stood up to support this man, who used to lead the Yun family, to continue as patriarch. However, even when facing such a reality, Yun Qinghong did not blame anyone. After all, he had been crippled. Whether it was the Elder Council or the Grand Elders, their main motive for doing so was for the future of the Yun family. After all, letting a crippled person lead the Yun family would invite ridicule and also bleaken the future of the family. When compared to the future of the Yun family, the bloodline of the patriarch did not seem as important. The cheers supporting the Great Elder grew louder and louder. Yun Waitian found it hard to remain calm as he humbly said, towards everyone's support, I'm truly humbled, but with my weak strength, I'm not capable to take on the role as patriarch. Instead, 7th Elder, whose strength is outstanding, is the most suitable person for this role. The 7th Elder, who was mentioned by Yun Waitian, quickly waved it off. Great Elder's words are too kind. Pardon my honesty, but within the entire Yun family, with Great Elder present, it would not please the masses if anyone else was patriarch. That's right. We support Great Elder to succeed as patriarch. Great Elder, don't refuse anymore. The position of the next patriarch is undoubtedly yours. The Yun family cheers sounded once again and Yun Waitian cupped his fist together as his agitation had exploded. Since 22 years ago when Yun Qinghong was crippled, he had the thought of becoming patriarch. For this 22 years, he had worked very hard for this goal while gaining more and more of a reputation for himself. If he were to become the patriarch, the bloodline of the patriarch that had existed for 10,000 years would change. 100 years later, his son Yun Xinyu would become the next patriarch, and after that, it would be his grandson and his descendants. Facing the crippled Yun Qinghong and his son that was unable to use his profound handle, he knew that this day would come eventually. However, it had finally arrived today. As the cheers of the Yun family grew louder, a disharmonious cold laughter suddenly sounded. Since Great Elder Yun knows that he's not suitable for the position of patriarch, why do you people have to make noise blindly and cause trouble for Great Elder Yun? If Great Elder Yun can't resist it and choose to go back on his words and accept, when this spreads, won't others gossip that the Yun family Great Elder is actually eyeing for the position of patriarch, and even hypocritically acted as though he did not want it? This vicious and cunning title does not sound particularly nice. Don't you agree, Great Elder Yun? Mu Yubai's words were actually quite vicious. The entire Yun family supported Yun Weitian to be the next patriarch, but since Yun Weitian kept pushing it away, this had been attacked by Mu Yubai. Using his own words, Mu Yubai made it such that if he were to accept the position of the patriarch, he would become a vicious and ungentlemanly hypocrite. The corners of Yun Weitian's lips twitched furiously. Just as he was about to say something, an insolent voice rang from the right side. I agree with young patriarch Mu's words. The one who spoke was Helian Peng as he squinted his triangular eyes and spoke slowly. I heard that after Yun Qinghong became crippled, Great Elder Yun took over all the affairs of the Yun family. No matter how important the matter was, he handled them by himself. Even though he's only a great elder, he acted more like a patriarch than the patriarch himself. TSK. From more than a decade ago, I have already heard rumors that the great elder of the Yun family had been eyeing the position of patriarch. After so long, the amount of such rumors only seemed to increase. If great elder were to suddenly take over the position of patriarch, it would prove such rumors to be true. At that time, the patriarch name would be very respected within the family, but his reputation outside would be harshly tarnished. The Helian Peng, who had previously helped Yun Weitian speak and nearly fought with Mu Yubai, was now actually helping Mu Yubai, and the words he said towards Yun Weitian were even more vicious and straightforward than what Mu Yubai had said previously. The color of Yun Weitian's face darkened, and all the core elders looked at each other. Mu Yubai frowned, glancing at Helian Peng. He would not naively believe that Helian Peng would happily go along with him. Could this guy be here specifically to make trouble today? Mu Yubai's words made Yun Weitian seem as though he had swallowed a fly, but Helian Peng's words made it seem as though he smeared shit on his face, causing his hatred and indignation to be unbearable. He thought that if he were to really attempt to become patriarch, he would face resistance from Mu Yubai, but never had he ever expected that other than Mu Yubai, there was also a Helian Peng trying to stop him. The corners of his mouth twitched as he tried to suppress his feelings in order to look less awful. He forced himself to say, I, Yun Weitian, did everything all these years for the Yun family and have never ever fawned over the patriarch position. Sigh? After remaining silent for a long time, Grand Elder Yun Jiang sighed and said, Weitian, within the Yun family now, you are indeed our most suitable candidate. Whether you're willing or not, you becoming the next patriarch would be the best result for the Yun family. You don't have to reject it. As for what others say, we simply don't have to listen to it. A Grand Elder's words naturally carried supreme weight. Yun Weitian was secretly overjoyed, and just as he was about to go along with the flow, he heard Duke Huiyi speak up. Concerning this matter of the Yun patriarch, this duke has a small suggestion. I wonder if everyone from the Yun family would like to hear it. Once Duke Huiyi spoke, he caught everyone's attention. Yun Weitian stopped his attempt to speak, turned to Duke Huiyi, and respectfully replied, What suggestion does your highness have? I'm sure everyone would like to know. Duke Huiyi was calm as he smiled slightly, swung the fan in his hands, and spoke slowly. In my opinion, what young Patriarch Mu and Elder Helian had said isn't unreasonable. Even though Great Elder Yun has done a lot for the family and no one can match his reputation within the family, is indeed not suitable for the position. Otherwise, going by what young Patriarch Mu and Elder Helian had said, it would become the laughing stock of the others. The human tongue is powerful. If it only concerned Great Elder Yun, it could be overlooked. However, the current situation within the family is already dire. If the public starts to gossip even more because of this matter, it wouldn't be beneficial to the Yun family. Duke Huiyi words caused Yun Weishan's heart to clench. He looked down in an attempt to hide his ugly expression that looked worse than crying. What your highness said is true. I'm truly unsuitable for the position of patriarch. Duke Huiyi quickly continued, judging from the Yun family's current predicament, there's a need to change patriarchs, and in my opinion, there's an even better candidate. I wonder who your highness is referring to. Grand Elder Yun, she asked. Duke Huiyi closed his fan, stood up and paced about. Since Great Elder is not suitable, and there's no one that can please everyone from this generation of elders, then why not nominate the new patriarch from another place? Your highness is saying? Duke Huiyi replied, back then, your family lost your patriarch and the 10 strongest grand elders. The strength of your family weakened drastically overnight and you all had to carry sins for 100 years. If the Yun family were to rise again, it would undoubtedly require a long amount of time and an exceptional leader. An exceptional leader requires a long time to groom. From what this duke sees, since it's difficult to make a choice from the older generation, why not choose one from a younger generation? It is known to the whole city that the eldest son of the great elder, Yun Xinyu, is a gifted talent who has strong aptitude, and possesses the same cyan-colored profound handle as the Demon King. His personality is also humble and not arrogant. He is undoubtedly the pride of the Yun family that heaven has bestowed. More than once, this duke has heard him being praised as the biggest hope of Yun family's future. If he were to become the next patriarch and be guided by Great Elder and all the other elders, this duke believes that within 10 years, he would become an exceptional leader. The days of glory for the Yun family won't be long away. Furthermore, although Yun Xinyu is young, his talent and personality is obvious to the entire Yun family. If he were to become the next patriarch, this duke believes that there would be less people dissatisfied with this as compared to Great Elder. What does everyone think? The words said by the Duke Huiyi immediately caused waves among the Yun family members who were present. After most of them had recovered from their momentary surprise, their eyes suddenly began to shine with the light of emotion. Many of the core elders from the Elder Council began to look at each other in consternation, after which, they all began to slowly nod their heads simultaneously. Even the 3 grand elders, Yun He, Yun Jiang and Yun Shi had sunk into deep thought, but they did not show any sign of rejecting his words. Amen. Yun Che rested his hand under his chin as he looked thoughtfully at the completely relaxed Duke Huiyi. He gave a faint chuckle, and then said in a low voice, so it was like this after all. Before, I only had a grasp on about 90% of the situation, but now I can see the entire picture. Yun Che's soft words were fully transmitted into Yun Qinghong's ears. Yun Qinghong looked askance, giving him a deep, long look. If father must truly abdicate his position, letting brother Xinyu take over as patriarch doesn't seem to be a bad idea. Yun Xiao said softly. His Highness Huiyi has truly presented an excellent proposal. After the noise had begun to die down, Core Elder began to clap his hands while standing. He said with a voice filled with admiration, for all these years, every time the occasion arises for one patriarch to succeed the other, that person is almost always above 100 years of age, so this has caused us to unwittingly overlook such an excellent candidate. That is right. Another elder also stood up. Xinyu is the best amongst our young generation, and it can also be said that he is perfect in every way. Even though he is not the son of the patriarch, he is still the son of the great elder. Whether it is regarding aptitude or background, you will not be able to find another candidate who can compare to him amongst his peers. As for his age, Xinyu is indeed still young, but why can't we consider this a kind of advantage? In regards to his shallow qualifications, as long as we put in every effort to assist him, this shallowness can be completely compensated for. Even people from outside the Yun family has called Xinyu the great hope of our Yun family. This is definitely not idle talk or lies. Letting Xinyu be the next patriarch may truly bring about an entirely new beginning for our Yun family. His Highness Huiyi's suggestion is truly sublime. In the current Yun family, which had greatly declined in strength, the halo surrounding Yun Xingyue was indeed dazzling without compare. Countless praises and the greatest hope and expectation for the Yun family's resurgence was gathered in that halo of light. And under such a light, even the problem of his age was easily covered up. The seniors of the Yun family already did not feel that the suggestion for him to be the next patriarch was too inappropriate, and following the approval of one elder after the other, they felt like it was more and more feasible, to the point where it could be said that he was an excellent choice. As for the younger members of the Yun family, it was natural that they exhibited an incomparably excited response. Yun Xingyue becoming the Yun family patriarch caused a fierce pride to well up in the hearts of all of those young disciples. The present cheers were even louder than the ones given when Yun Weitian was presented as the successor of the title of patriarch. After the grand elders had given this matter careful consideration, they all slowly nodded their heads as well. Yun Jiang said in a gentle voice, "Our Yun clan has never had the precedent of allowing someone from the younger generation to take the seat of patriarch prematurely, but that does not mean that such a precedent cannot be set. Xinyue's temperament and talent are enough to compensate for his lack of experience." After serious consideration and taking into account the present condition of the Yun family, Xinyu seems to be even more suitable than Weitian to take over the position of patriarch. I also concur with what has been said. Yun He nodded his head. I can expect no less of Duke Hui Yi. His suggestion has enlightened us, allowing us to see something that we had not been able to see before. Yun Shi added as he nodded his head as well. To be able to attain the recognition from all three grand elders is this duke's fortune. Duke Hui Yi said as he gave a faint smile, "This duke merely gave a simple suggestion. I did not expect to receive such a vigorous response from your entire clan. It looks like all of you ladies and gentlemen of the Yun family has an even greater appreciation and respect for Yun Xinyu than I had previously anticipated. Since this is the case, great elder, for your virtuous son to succeed the title of patriarch seems to be the perfect conclusion to this matter." Duke Hui Yi's words had undoubtedly speedily changed Yun Weixian's previous melancholy into sheer joy. Letting Yun Xinyu become patriarch naturally filled him with even more joy than his own appointment as patriarch would have given him. He strongly restrained the ecstasy in his heart and said in a polite and modest tone, "Duke Hui Yi has such great love for my unworthy son. For that I, Yun Weitian, am eternally grateful. However, my unworthy son is simply too young, and the reality is that his ability is still currently lacking." Yun Xinyu stood up, and it was clear that he was at a loss. He said in a deferential tone, "Everything that my father has said is true. For Duke Hui Yi to show me such great love, Xinyu is simply grateful beyond words. However, Xinyu is not even 30 years old yet and my power, ability and experience still fall far short of the required mark, so how can I be worthy of receiving the huge responsibility of becoming the new patriarch?" Xinyu is truly unbearably perplexed. "Oh." Duke Hui Yi's smile quickly receded and a displeased look soon appeared on his face. He gave a cold snort and said, "HMPH, looks like those rumors are after all, in the end, merely rumors. This duke had originally thought you, Yun Xingyue, is indeed an incomparable genius who was bestowed to the Yun family by the heavens, but it looks like you are nothing more than this. The Yun family currently exists in the boundary between life and death. The entire Yun family is willing to entrust such a heavy burden to you, even the three grand elders have given their approval. But alas, you do not even have the courage or the nerve to take on this task. It's too bad that the so-called great hope of the Yun family is nothing more than a joke. This hope is merely a fool to be despised by all." Duke Hui Yi's words caused Yun Xingyue's face to become stained a crimson red. He clenched his fists tightly and said through gritted teeth, "Xinyu does not recognize what your highness has just said. To bring about the revival of the Yun family is my life's greatest wish. If I am allowed to accomplish this wish, I will not hesitate to pay any price to make it come true. This duke has never bothered listening to useless words that are beneath my notice." Duke Hui Yi replied with a bland smile, "This duke only wants to know one thing, this position of Yun family patriarch, do you dare to take it?" "I dare." "Why would I not dare?" As if he was severely jolted by Duke Hui Yi's words, Yun Xingyue's hesitation disappeared and he replied in a manner that was extremely resolute and decisive. He furrowed his brows and said with a solemn expression, as long as all the seniors of the Yun family, as well as my fellow brothers and sisters, think highly of me, and is willing to let a junior like me be patriarch of the Yun family. Then I will dare to throw caution to the wind and say that I will cause the Yun family to rise to ascendancy again within my lifetime." Once Yun Xinyu had uttered such strong words, all the Yun family members present naturally went into a frenzy and they blanketed the arena with roars. Several core elders stood up one after the other, and as they nodded their heads and laughed, they announced as one body, "Who would have thought that this major event concerning the patriarch would reach such a resolution? Even though it was beyond our expectations, it is indeed a perfect ending. All of us will commit our greatest strength into supporting the new patriarch." Yun Weitian drew in a long breath and said in an incomparably agitated voice, "Since this is the current state of affairs, if my unworthy son still chooses to decline, it would instead seem like a pretentious and cowardly act. And since today, this heavy burden has fallen upon the shoulders of my unworthy son, I as his father, will exert 10 times my previous effort, in hopes that this father and son will not become guilty of perpetuating the decline of our Yun family." The inner circle within the Yun family all knew that the true motive of this family competition was to replace their patriarch. And before this, everyone had assumed that the new patriarch would be Yun Weitian. Who would have thought that, under the urging of Duke Huiyi, they would reach a conclusion that seemed to be even more perfect? Duke Huiyi gave off a big laugh and said, "For a clan to change patriarchs is originally a huge affair that is dealt with within that family." This duke did not expect that as a stranger giving a rather superficial proposal, that my proposal would receive recognition from all the members of the Yun family present. This duke is overjoyed and extremely honored. And since this matter was precipitated by this duke also has a burning desire to see it through to completion. Since all those who are present feel that Yun Xinyu is the most suitable candidate to assume the role of patriarch, and every single member of the Yun family, including the grand elders and core elders that are present, the esteemed guests who are visiting shall bear witness. The stars have truly aligned and people from every corner are gathered in witness. Since this is so, I do not see why we should not, on this very day, at this very time, proceed to complete the ceremony of succession for the new patriarch. Everyone, do you have any objections? In this entire process, the current patriarch Yun Qinghong had the least attention paid to him. No one asked him for his opinion and no one cared about his feelings, because even though he was the patriarch, he had long ago become a useless cripple whom even a beggar could ignore, because at least a beggar could still move under his own power. The suggestion that Yun Xinyu should become the new patriarch was met with raucous approval from the entire Yun clan, and there was not a word that was said in opposition. And the one who had given these suggestions, who had brought it to conclusion, was Duke Huiyi himself, so it was hard for anyone to feel that it was inappropriate. In fact, given the current situation, forget about shouting out one's objections, those present would hardly even dare to express their objection in any way. However, as everyone was on the verge of witnessing the fall of the old patriarch and the beginning of the inauguration of the new patriarch, there was one unenlightened person who stood up. "I have an objection." These 4 bland words utilized the power of profound energy to possess an extremely strong penetrating effect. And amidst the noisy environment, it was clearly transmitted into everyone's ears, and even caused the great clamor to instantly die down. All eyes turned at the same time to the origin of that voice. Yun Che stood up and unhurriedly strode forward 5 paces. He gave a faint smile to Duke Huiyi and Yun Weitian, whom he faced, while he exposed himself to the gaze of the crowd at the same time. Yun Che had, after all, stayed with the Yun family for 2 months. Even though a large proportion of the Yun family had never seen him, they had all heard that Yun Che had become Yun Qinghong's godson. It was just that the godson of a crippled patriarch was simply not enough to draw the attention of those within the Yun family. For him to step out all of a sudden and say those 4 earth-shattering words, "I have an objection," caused everyone to be stand in place. Following that, however, the gazes filled with shock were increasingly replaced by gazes filled with mockery and no small amount of schadenfreude. Who the hell is this kid? He has an objection? Heh, what does he mean? Who does he think he is? Who does he think the people who are standing in front of him are? Oh, this seems to be the godson of Yun Qinghong. Could it be that this person is some sort of retard? Perhaps he just wants to steal some of the limelight. Heh, speaking out is easy, but let's see how you handle the fallout now. It's time to watch a show. As for Duke Huiyi, the branch of the royal family he was from was extremely formidable, and it was public knowledge that it rivaled the power that the little demon empress held. Even the stately great elder of the Yun family had to be polite and respectful to young Duke and would not dare show any sign of slighting him. Even those who had never heard of Duke Huiyi before would still understand what kind of background he had. So when he asked if anyone had any objections, no one thought that someone would actually really step forward. This was undoubtedly a rude slap delivered to Duke Huiyi's face. Big brother! Yun Xiao cried in alarm as he moved forward to drag Yun Che back. Yun Qinghong extended his hand to block him, after which, he silently shook his head. Oh! Duke Huiyi had also naturally did not expect that there was someone who was willing to sing a different tune. Moreover, this was after the entire Yun family had recognized the proposal that he made. He turned around and casually measured Yun Che with his eyes. In a voice that contained only amusement and no anger, he said, "And you are?" Yun Weitian fixed his eyes upon Yun Che and his brows wrinkled up. Then, he continued by saying, "Your Highness Huiyi, this person is actually not part of our Yun family. Moreover, he is only a foster son who was taken in 2 months ago by Yun Qinghong. We also have no idea where this fellow came from, but Duke Huiyi, please do not bother with what he is saying." At this point in time, Yun Weitian had abandoned even addressing Yun Qinghong as patriarch and directly called him Yun Qinghong. Foster son. Duke Huiyi faintly narrowed his eyes. This is truly strange. This duke has never heard of someone from the Yun family taking in a foster child. For Patriarch Yun to have set such a precedent, it seems that this foster son of Patriarch Yun must truly possess some exceedingly extraordinary qualities. You flatter me, Yun Che said laughingly. He stayed perfectly composed in the face of Duke Huiyi's mighty aura, as though he wasn't even facing someone who stood at the peak of the illusory demon realm, but rather a peer who couldn't be any more ordinary. I am only a nobody, so Duke Huiyi obviously does not recognize me. Even though I am not a member of the Yun family, my surname is also Yun, with my name being Che. Yun Che. Yun Weitian deeply uttered, "Today is a major event for our Yun family. Whether or not your surname is Yun has no meaning, for you are still just an outsider who has no right to butt into our Yun family affairs. Apologize to Duke Huiyi immediately for your offense, then scram. Or else, even that godfather of yours would not be able to protect you." Yun family's great elder berated so angrily, and even caused the rest of the young generation to end up trembling with fear while drenched in sweat. However, Yun Che merely gave him an indifferent glance, and said without a change in expression, "I, Yun Che, am not a member of the Yun family, nor am I a citizen of Demon Imperial City. I've only arrived at Demon Imperial City 2 months ago, and just happened to save Yun Xiao from ambush outside the city. Yun Xiao and I were compatible, so we became sworn brothers. Since I saved his son, the Yun Patriarch accepted me as his adoptive son. Since I have become the Patriarch's godchild, then I can be considered to be a half-member of the Yun family. If you want to talk about outsiders, I believe that this Duke Huiyi should be the true outsider, right? If an outsider could decide the Yun family's succession of Patriarch with a few words, then why do I, a half-insider, not have the right to speak up?" Once Yun Che's words came out, Yun Xiao instantly broke into cold sweat, while those elder-class characters who were a few hundred years old were all struck dumb into speechlessness. Insolence! Yun Che's words stunned everyone present. Yun Weitian became angry and bellowed, "Insolent brat, how dare you offend His Highness Huiyi? If it were not for Yun Qinghong, based on those words you said, I would have personally give you a few tight slaps." Yun Che willfully laughed, showing no signs of panic. "Great Elder's anger is truly great. Did I say anything wrong? This Duke who is completely unrelated to the Yun family can bother with your Yun family affairs, but I, a half-member of the Yun family, cannot. Furthermore, the person who asked if there were any objections seemed to be that Duke as well." Seeing that Yu Che did not back off, and instead continue, caused Yun Weitian to laugh in anger. "His Highness Huiyi is a Duke, and his words are like gold, enlightening us, the Yun family, about the matter of the next patriarch. Who are you to compare to yourself to His Highness Huiyi? If there were any objections, my Yun family elder council would object. Since when was it your turn, you ridiculous little thing? hurry up and scram. If you are to say another word. Atilda, Duke Huiyi lifted up his hand to stop Yun Weitian from speaking, his facing still maintaining its calm. He did not seem even a bit angry. However, a brat whose background was unknown, who was only at the sky profound realm, was indeed not even fit to cause him to become angry. If he were really to become angry, others would find it weird instead. He laughed and said, "Great Elder doesn't have to get angry. Changing patriarchs is a huge matter. Someone having an objection is just normal. Even though Yun Che is not a member of the Yun family, he's still the godson of the current patriarch. Saying that he is half a Yun family member is indeed not too much. Furthermore, his godfather would be the one that is giving up his position. For him to have something to say is normal. Why not let us listen to what he has to say? Your Highness, I heard that this brat came from the southern borders to Demon Imperial City 2 months ago. There are not many people from the Yun family that knows him. There is no need for a man with such high status as you to listen to rubbish from a brat." Yun Weitian said. No, Duke Huiyi shook his head. Letting Xinyu succeed as patriarch is not something your Yun family decided, but something this duke suggested, and what Yun Che said was not wrong. This duke is still an outsider, and something an outsider suggested leading to objections is something normal. Furthermore, this Yun Che is the godson of the current patriarch. If he were to be really chased away by you like this, wouldn't it seem as though this duke is narrow-minded, bullying others with authority and cannot take objections? Clap, clap, clap. A loud applause started, and as Yun Che clapped, he praised loudly, "No wonder you're a duke. Such magnanimity and boldness is indeed commendable. Unlike some others who lived a few hundred years for nothing, you're much stronger." Yun Weitian instantly flew into a rage. Him offending Duke Huiyi in public could be understood as being ignorant and rash, but his last phrase was obviously criticizing him. However, after he said, "You," he did not continue, but instead laughed coldly. He thought that with his status, flying into a rage because of a junior in public was just embarrassing himself. Furthermore, him offending Duke Huiyi would obviously not do him any good. This Duke Huiyi was definitely not some kind and magnanimous person. Is he really the youth that saved number 7 that day? On his seat, Unparalleled Under Heaven looked at Yun Che and asked. Yes, it's him. Number 1 Under Heaven nodded. This youngster is a bit reckless. Unparalleled Under Heaven said. Number 1 Under Heaven thought for a while, before replying, even though I only met him once, he doesn't seem to be a rash and thoughtless person. Ha ha. Unparalleled Under Heaven laughed slightly as he turned his attention to Yun Qinghong, then thoughtfully said, if he really is someone Yun Qinghong made godson, then he's definitely not simple. Your father has more than once said that even though Yun Qinghong is completely crippled, he is not a person to be looked down upon. Even though the current Yun family seems as though the control is with Yun Weitian, it's only a superficial view. Your father and I strongly believe that it is not possible for Yun Qinghong to not have backups. If Yun Qinghong is willing to accept this child as his godson, this child is definitely not normal. Number 1 Under Heaven. This Duke has said before that this Duke does not want to hear any useless rubbish. Duke Huiyi narrowed his eyes and looked at Yun Che with a playful glance. That glance was like someone getting interested in a toy. You said that you had objections, that means you don't agree on Yun Xinyu becoming the next patriarch. Then, let us know the reason why, or you could suggest someone who is more suitable to become patriarch. If your reason is reasonable or that everyone agrees with you, then it would be the best. Otherwise, if your words were merely objecting for the sake of objecting. For such a huge matter being treated as a farce by you, let's not say the Yun family, but even this Duke would likely get angry. As Duke Huiyi finished speaking, a sense of dismay was released, causing the younger disciples on the seats to shudder. Duke Huiyi was a part of the illusory Demon 7 Scions, and his strength didn't need to be questioned. Being born in the royal family, his innate and acquired royal aura was not something that an ordinary person can withstand. Yun Che was unfazed as he said, I am half a Yun family member. Naturally, everything I say and do is for the sake of the Yun family. The patriarch is the most important leader of the family. The choice of patriarch affects the future of the entire family. It's not a matter where even a little negligence can be allowed. When choosing the patriarch, although strength is important, it is not the most important. Instead, the most important is personality and character. Duke Huiyi, on this point, I'm sure you agree as well. Duke Huiyi smiled slightly and said, of course. However, from what you said, are you questioning Yun Xinyu's character? From what this Duke knows, not only is Yun Xinyu a gifted talent, his character is flawless. Otherwise, there wouldn't be no one disagreeing with the proposition of Yun Xinyu as the next patriarch. Do you mean that the understanding of him from the clan members who stayed with him for tens of years is inferior to you, an outsider who has only been in Demon Imperial City for 2 months? Yun Che laughed strangely and said thoughtfully, everyone knows that in this world, the hardest thing to see clearly is the human heart. I said before, the reason I had become Yun Qinghong's godson was because when I first arrived in Demon Imperial City, I had saved his son Yun Xiao. That day, other than Yun Xiao, Under Heaven clan's princess, number 7 Under Heaven, was attacked as well. Yun Xiao and number 7 Under Heaven were both direct descendants of their patriarch. The news of them being attacked together is not something trivial, and I'm sure everyone present has heard of this news. This Duke has indeed heard of it, but does this have anything to do with whether Yun Xinyu can become the next patriarch? Duke Huiyi asked with a slight smile. Yes, of course it does, and it's even greatly related. Yun Che did not stop and continued. His words caused the brows of Yun Qinghong, who was sitting on the wheelchair, to knit closely together. His gaze was cold, but it all dissipated quickly. Number 7 Under Heaven and Yun Xiao were attacked together, and the attacks were very vicious. It was obvious the motive was to kill them. That way, the Under Heaven patriarch would undoubtedly rage and investigate his matter thoroughly. Yun Xiao's uncle, Senior Mu, would also meddle in this matter, but Yun family's actions. It doesn't matter if we don't talk about it. However, the 3 black-clothed men who attacked Yun Xiao and number 7 Under Heaven did not reveal their profound skills. Therefore, it was exceptionally difficult to track their identities. Now, 2 months have passed, and whether it's the Under Heaven family or Senior Mu, they did not uncover anything. What exactly is your point? Yun Weitian impatiently bellowed, this is my Yun family's great assembly, we're not here to listen to your rubbish. Great Elder, calm down. The main point is coming. Yun Che said neither quickly or slowly, Yun Xiao is my sworn brother. Him being attacked, Yun family can ignore it, treat as though nothing happened, but I, as his big brother, cannot. In these 2 months, I kept trying to find out who was it that tried to assassinate Yun Xiao and the Under Heaven family princess. Lucky for him, a while back, I finally figured out the identity of one of the culprits. From the seats, the faces of number 1 Under Heaven and Unparalleled Under Heaven changed instantly as their gaze became serious. 2 months ago, number 7 Under Heaven nearly lost her life to the black-clothed men, and Greatest Ambition Under Heaven exploded with anger, but even though he personally investigated this matter, it did not come to any results. Yun Che's words instantly captured their attentions. Number 1 Under Heaven immediately stood up and asked, Brother Yun, are you serious? The person that you had found out, who is he? Mu Yubai stroked his chin as he muttered with a frown, this brat, just what medicine is this brat concocting? Even that old man Under Heaven could not discover anything, but he did. Ah? Big Brother really discovered who it was. Yun Xiao had a face of confusion, but he has never stepped out of the house much during these 2 months. This. Husband, what is Chea trying to do? Mu Yuro was equally perplexed as well. No need to ask, let's just watch on. Yun Qinghong looked on with knitted brows as his grip on the handle of the wheelchair grew tighter. Yun Che turned around and said while facing number 1 Under Heaven, Brother Under Heaven, with one of your family members nearly being assassinated, I believe that even if you and your family were to stab the culprit to death with 1,000 swords, it would not quell your anger. But today, I have to ask Brother Under Heaven and our Under Heaven seniors to maintain your composure, since the identity of the culprit that I have figured out is shocking. When I say it, you might not even believe me. Yun Che shifted his attention to Yun Xinyu and looked at him intently. One of the culprits behind the assassination attempt of Yun Xiao and number 7 Under Heaven is not anyone else, but the imposing and prestigious son of the Great Elder. Yun Xinyu. Once Yun Che mentioned the two words, Yun Xinyu, it seemed as though someone randomly tossed out two bombs. The entire plaza became a field of silence, then it was replaced with deafening, world-shaking noises. However, this was not sound of shock, but rather, the sound of deafening laughter. "You scoundrel!" It came as no surprise to anyone that Yun Weitian burned with indignant fury right there and then. "You arrogant little kid, how dare you spout such absurd, laughable and presumptuous words? Do you really think that I would not dare to kill you? This is truly preposterous." The seventh elder, who was normally on the best terms with Yun Weitian, stood up and rebuked Yun Che with fury. "In my life, I have never heard such ridiculous words being said before. This is simply absurd. Absurd. Xinyu is the most illustrious disciple among all the young ones in our clan. Both his temperament and talent are unquestionable. And he has never even bullied any of our fellow clan members before. In fact, he is especially close with Yun Xiao. And even if there was really some kind of grievance that existed, how could it be possible for him to actually try to murder a fellow clan member? To try to assassinate the princess of the Under Heaven clan, this is easily the most absurd joke I have ever heard. This is truly laughable and aggravating all at the same time. It really infuriates this old man." A senior from the Yun family, who was hundreds of years old, sighed. "A bastard kid who came out of nowhere dares to slander our impending new patriarch in public. This is just too much. The disciplinary elder needs to drag him down and subject him to a heavy punishment right now." A young disciple roared in fury. His words immediately provoked a huge response and all sorts of mockery, abuse and cries of anger rang out. The sounds were so loud that they blanketed the entire area. Yun Xiao had stared blankly into space for a good long while before saying in a quavering voice, This? How can this be? How can it be Brother Xinyu? Big Brother must have gotten it wrong somehow." Even though Yun Xiao had a deep reverence and respect for Yun Che and despite their close relationship. Yes, even though it was Yun Che, Yun Xiao still had a hard time believing what Yun Che had just said. After all, he had only known Yun Che for 2 months, but he had known Yun Xinyu for over 20 years. And for all these years, Yun Xinyu had left an extremely perfect image within his heart. He simply could not believe that the assassination attempt he had met with the other day had anything to do with Yun Xinyu. Yun Qinghong looked at him and gently said, "Xiao, remember what your big brother said to you before. In this world, the hardest thing to puzzle out is the human heart. And the hardest ability to cultivate is not profound strength, it is the ability to see through the hearts of other people. In this aspect, your big brother is simply much too superior to you. See with clear eyes the things that are about to unfold before you, and after that, carve today's lesson into your memory." Yun Xiao opened his mouth but he could not make a sound, his mind had sunk into complete turmoil. Yun Xinyu stood up, and it could be seen that he was greatly suppressing his rage. He managed to speak in a voice that was passably calm, "Yun Che. I, Yun Xinyu, have never had any enmity with you in the past, nor do I have any grievance with you at present. In fact, we have hardly even spoken, and when we have occasionally bumped into each other, I have always treated you with civility. So why do slander me in such a manner? What exactly are your intentions?" A universal chorus of taunts and criticism came flooding in from all sides, but 2 years ago, when Yun Che was in the territory of the Divine Phoenix sect, he had already dared to take on the entire Divine Phoenix sect by himself. This kind of situation was not even enough to make him flustered. Facing Yun Xinyue's question, he looked sideways and sneeringly replied, "Whether what I am saying is true or false, you know better than anyone else. But I can't help but admire your acting skills. Your expression, gaze, movements and words. They are all unassailable. No wonder you have been able to bluff all these years without getting caught out. You?" Yun Xinyu was so angry that his entire body trembled with rage. "Laughable, this is simply too laughable. Your coarse and despicable entrapment, I can expose it with a few simple words. You said that the one who planned the assassination attempt on Yun Xiao that day was me." He pointed to Yun Xiao and said furiously, "But you can ask Yun Xiao yourself, when have I ever had any grievances with him? You can also ask him if the ones who tried to assassinate him that day were from the Yun family or not. If it was someone from the other families, then if they hid their profound art, it would be hard to recognize. However, if it was a member of our Yun family who did it, even if they put in their entire effort into hiding their profound art, as someone from the same clan who has cultivated the purple cloud art for nearly 20 years, how could it be that Yun Xiao did not notice it? I don't even need to ask. Yun Che curled his lips and replied, the ones who attacked Yun Xiao and number 7 under heaven that day were naturally not from the Yun family. Because it was a combined effort between you and members from other families who laid this trap for them. Bullshit. Yun Weitian was thoroughly infuriated, and he ground his foot into floor as he suddenly launched an attack at Yun Che. An incomparably robust and solid burst of lightning profound energy surged out violently, instantly forming into a roiling current of lightning which explosively sped towards Yun Che's neck. Yun Weitian had been standing close to Yun Che and he had made an abrupt attack out of extreme anger, so everyone else hardly had any time to react. On one side, there was a powerful sovereign profound realm, on the other was a mere sky profound realm. Under Yun Weitian's attack, Yun Che did not even need to think about surviving, because even having his body torn up and all his bones broken would be considered getting off lightly. But Yun Che had made his preparations far in advance. Once he had stood up to oppose Yun Xinyu, his nerves had been on a razor's edge and his profound energy had been actively circulating as well. So once he felt Yun Weitian's profound energy surging, his profound energy exploded at the same time, and his body instantly shimmered. SSSSS. Yun Weitian's lightning current shredded space and shredded Yun Che's afterimage as well. Everyone was stared at the space, and even Yun Weitian himself was caught staring blankly because even he did not see clearly how Yun Che had dodged that strike. A stately monarch had suddenly struck out against a junior in the sky profound realm, but he did not even touch the corner of his robe. And this was witnessed by all who were present. Yun Weitian's shame turned to anger, and with a fierce turn, he attempted to grab the Yun Che who had appeared at his back. You little liar, die. Stop. A huge icy cold profound formation appeared instantly in front of Yun Che's body, and as it activated, it completely reflected Yun Weitian lightning profound energy back at him. A figure appeared in the air in a flash, and Mu Yu Bai descended like a bolt of lightning, shielding Yun Che. He smirked coldly and said, Yun Weitian, you are after all, great elder of the Yun clan, but you actually launched a sneak attack against a junior. You have truly thrown your ancestor's face all over the ground and used it as a dish rag. Yun Weitian said with a solemn expression, this bastard slandered my son, and he actually wanted to frame him for the crime of collaborating with outsiders to kill someone from his own clan. This is not only insulting my son, this is impugning the honor of my entire family. If this can be tolerated, then what would not be permissible? My family's honor is 1,000,000 times more precious than this mongrel's life. Let's not talk about killing him, even tearing his body apart would not be the least bit overboard. The words that great elder Yun have said, this Duke approves. Duke Huiyi gave a dry chuckle. Honor. This is something far more precious than one's life. The extent of Yun Che's slander is such that if he dies, no one would regret it. If this Duke was in a similar situation, this Duke would also have struck out in anger. After saying his piece, Duke Huiyi suddenly narrowed his eyes and said, young Patriarch Mu has protected Yun Che to such an extent. Could it be that you actually believe the words he has said? Since he dared to say such a thing, he should have some basis to go upon. Mu Yubai coldly eyed Yun Weitian, not waiting for him to finish but suddenly striking a vicious blow. Could it be that this is what you would call acting on a guilty conscience? Ha 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 ha. A shrill and wanton laugh pierced the air. Helian Peng stood up and said between his guffaws, Your Highness Huiyi, great elder Yun, don't tell me that you don't see it already. It is obvious that this former patriarch is obviously not willing to relinquish his seat. Because he saw that the new patriarch enjoyed the people's support and his ascension was imminent, he became anxious and pushed this so-called foster son forward to upset the apple cart, but this so-called foster son is truly too pitiful. He is only considered to be cannon fodder to be used by other people. In order to prevent the new patriarch from assuming the position, he actually spouted such patently ridiculous accusations. Ha 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 ha, truly it makes me laugh so hard that my teeth hurt. Helian Peng's bout of mockery actually sounded reasonable and fair, so immediately many people began voicing out their approval. Lu Yubai's face turned dark and he coldly sneered, "Helian Peng, you sincerely courting death? Oh? Is it because I have exposed you for all to see, so your shame has turned into wrath?" Helian Peng's expression was filled with mockery. He turned to the seated Unparalleled under heaven and said, "Elder Unparalleled, your esteemed clan's princess was also involved in the assassination attempt on Yun Xiao 2 months ago. I think it would be obvious that you, more than anyone else, would wish to know who the true man behind the curtain is. But to say that Yun Xinyu was the one who was pulling the strings, such preposterous words, even you would not be able to believe them, am I correct?" Unparalleled under heaven said calmly, "Empty words naturally lack the power to persuade. I will only trust in concrete evidence. Yunche, since you have said that Yun Xinyu is the scoundrel behind all of this, what evidence do you have to back yourself up?" "Evidence? He is merely trying to blacken the name of the new patriarch on the eve of his election. What evidence would he have?" "Elder Unparalleled, do you actually believe that he could take out some concrete evidence for us to see?" Helian Peng said in a voice which dripped with contempt. Duke Huiyi let out a cold snort and said, "HMPH, since young Patriarch Mu has actually come forward to protect you, Yunche, this Duke will give you one chance. You said that Yun Xinyu was the scoundrel behind the assassination attempt on Yun Xiao and number 7 under heaven 2 months ago, so why don't you show this Duke some real proof? If it is something that can convince all who are present, then the Yun family will naturally deal with Yun Xinyu impartially. I believe even if it is the Great Elder, he will definitely not act unjustly due to selfish considerations. But if you cannot show us any evidence and you are merely maliciously trying to smear Yun Xinyue's reputation, HMPH, much less the Yun clan, even this Duke will not let you off lightly. The celebrated son of the 12 guardian families, how can we let an outsider humiliate him without good cause? If it is evidence you are talking about, I naturally have it. In fact, it is right before your very eyes." Yunche once again said something shocking in an unperturbed manner. He pointed at Yun Xinyu and said, "Yun Xinyu himself, isn't he the best evidence?" "What do you mean by that?" Duke Huiyi said as he eyed Yunche darkly. Yunche replied in a gentle tone, "The entire illusory demon world knows that the Yun family possesses one completely unique special ability, the Profound Handle. And the Profound Handle can not only be used for attacking, it also has uses in regards to one's mind. Even if it is someone who has just started cultivating the profound arts, the words Profound Handle Soul Search should reverberate in their hearts. As long as we use the Profound Handle Soul Search to seize his mind and force his consciousness to drift free, then no matter what you ask him, he will answer truthfully. There will not even be a hint of falsity or deception. By then, whether he has anything to do with the assassination attempt on Yun Xiao and number 7 under heaven will be solved with a simple question. And at that time, everything he says can be counted as the most indisputable, ironclad evidence in this world." Episode 91 is end here. Next episode coming tomorrow. Thanks for watching.